Hi, welcome back. In this video we'll be talking about why we freeze when we speak French in public, what causes us to be afraid. Because the fear of speaking French or any foreign language is a very real thing. We freeze. We don't know what to say. We feel foolish and many other things besides. And some native speakers, it has to be known, some native speakers have a very, very intolerant ear when it comes to mistakes. And probably more so in France because, there's a very logical reason for this. Probably more so in France because France is a very, very monolingual country, you might know, that has never even accepted English in the public sphere. Not at all. I've known people who were utterly traumatized after going to France and just tried to do a mundane thing like buying bread at a bakery, and they had to repeat the same word a number of times. That you want a what? You want a what? I say, I want a pain au chocolat, I want a croissant. No, I cannot understand this. And they couldn't get the message through. And they say, oh, come on, how many ways are there to say pain au raisin? Is it pain au raisin? No. And it is a real thing that the French, especially from France, not the Francophones, the French from France, have a rather intolerant ear. This is much different from English, by the way, because in English, especially in America, or even in the UK also, the variety of accents there. In the US, you speak English any old way you want, really. But in Francophone countries, especially in France, there's more of an intolerant ear, so it's a real thing. So some people have been traumatized after going to France and coming back and saying, oh, Chris, how do you say pain au raisin in bloody French? Once and for all, true story. So, this is what we'll be speaking about. And it's happened to me also. It's happened to me also in Dutch or even in German. I mentally prepared my sentences, I gear up, I know exactly what I'm going to say, and they throw something back at me that I was utterly unprepared for, and I panic. No, that was not in my script. Say the thing I want you to say. I was in Germany and I'd stayed there for about a month to practice German daily. I think I asked someone at a bakery, I said, I've been studying your language for 3 or 4 years. How is it that everything anyone says in Germany is exactly what I've never learned? How do you explain that? Can't you bloody well use words I know? They throw something back at me that I was unprepared for, because it will happen, of course. And I don't know where to locate the word within the language. Or worse, I don't understand the sentence. So it does happen to everyone. And if it's happened to you, well, the first reason for this is the lack of understanding of the playing field of French. That's one of the first reasons it happens. Why we panic, why we freeze. It's a lack of understanding of the playing field. It comes down to probabilities. When we learn well, we have a better idea of the depth of French. It's not this infinite and shapeless concept. There isn't this fear of French people knowing a different type of French than we know, as it happened to me in Germany. Because there's always this thing, you learn French but you're not quite sure, but what do they know over there? Is it the actual same French that they're using? So this is partly what causes it, this feeling of panic, this feeling of not using French the proper way or being understood the proper way. If we study French in a certain way, we remain within the reasonable and the rational, and this limits the state of panic because we can anticipate. We know what they're about to say. The problem, the fear becomes rational. And we can say, for example, okay, well, they're not going to make a sound I've never heard before because I've learned all the sounds, so I know what to expect. They're not going to use a tense I've never seen, okay? They're not going to use pronouns I've never learned. They might, of course, use a verb or a noun that you've never learned. It can very well happen, especially in specialised fields. If your mechanic tells you, for example, well, you have to come back to do an emissions test soon, and also we noticed that the threads in your wheel are a bit worn, and say that in French. Of course, well, it's too many technical words, you can't understand them. Of course not. So that will happen. You can't anticipate absolutely everything, but you can anticipate a lot. So this sort of example, of course, at the mechanics is going to be challenging, but you can, as I said, anticipate a lot. So it really is all about anticipating the problem and knowing what they're likely to say. And we do this, of course, by rationalising the language and studying most of the parts of French that are likely to be used. By doing this, we can understand how sentences are built and it stops being instinctive. The language isn't instinctive. So we can develop a rational understanding of French, and we can anticipate problems. And the language stops being just this collection of noises in a foreign tone. It's no longer this infinite and shapeless concept, this infinite ocean of words. It becomes a rational problem. You have an idea of the playing field, you know how big the pitch is, you know how sentences are built, and you can spot the gaps in what you didn't understand. You can say, okay, well, it's probably going to be this. Now it's a rational problem. And this is strongly tied to how you learn French. If you learn French as a system, a rational system, a grammatical system, you can break it down into small building blocks. You can rationalize each little building blocks. For example, pronouns. Do you know all the pronouns? Do you know how we use pronouns? So that limits the amount of surprises that's going to come your way. So you won't be caught off guard as much. So we can say, for example, well, French sentences usually lead with a subject. The person speaking to me is going to start with a subject that's doing something, or that did something, or is going to do something. Of course, here we have to know our tenses. So if they start with est-ce que or comment, well, they're asking me a question. And the level of surprise starts to shrink. You see that the playing field is known to you. There's going to be less and less surprises. And you understand what you didn't understand. This is very important. You can spot the exact word you didn't get. You know what you're doing. You can anticipate what the other person is telling you. So you can say, well, I got that part, but I didn't get that part. But you understand what you didn't understand. This is very important. I think the second way to leave panic mode behind, or to escape panic mode, is still as much in rationalization and metacognition. What a beautiful and brainy word that was. Metacognition, but all joking aside, this is really important to me. It all has to do with seeing yourself from the outside and rationalizing, okay, what am I trying to accomplish here? When I'm learning French, when I speak French, what am I actually trying to do? Where am I? What am I trying to do? What am I trying to express when I speak French? Am I asking a question? Am I building a negative sentence? Am I using can, may or must? Je peux, je dois, je veux. And you think, okay, well, I'm telling the person, for example, let's think of this one random example. You want to pay, but then, oh damn, I left my wallet in the car. Panic mode. You have to express this to someone who's waiting for your payment. If you rationalize the problem and you see yourself from the outside and you think, okay, calm down, what am I trying to tell this person? I don't have my wallet, what am I trying to tell them? Well, you need to know the word for bank card. You need to know the present tense of being. My bank card is, you need the preposition in, dans, and you need the word for car, voiture. I need the possessive, my, the feminine possessive. Ma carte de banque est dans la voiture. So now you've rationalized the problem, so that limits the panic mode. So you're building a sentence in the right order. A subject is doing something. You're building the subject in the sentence, in the right order. And this contains information that the native speaker will understand also. And of course you'll pronounce it the right way, because you will have studied the pronunciation of French in the right way, so they will now understand you. And you've rationalized the problem. You've seen yourself on the outside and you've told yourself, okay, what am I exactly trying to do here? Let's not panic. But I hope all this was useful. Very short video, very quick, very much to the point. And my name's Chris. I teach French at OuiCommunicate.com. Look me up and I'll be very happy to meet you. See you soon. Bye.